Well, hello there. How are you doing today? Hopefully you're doing absolutely fantastic. Anyway, I'm here taking a horse heresy quiz where I'm going to sit and go through these various options here and see what thingy I get, what legion I get. And originally I was going to play this with some music in the background, but then I realized that I'm actually explain my answers in a bit more detail. So I'm just going to go ahead and skip ahead without the music. Anyway. So we're going to start with this first question. Horus the War Master has communed with dark powers and torn the Imperium asunder. How do you view his actions? This would be kind of hard to answer because wouldn't you have to be within the Imperium? Anyway, I would say in most cases being disloyal and causing problems is a problem. However, this is the Imperium, so what are you actually hurting? What are you actually causing a problem with? I don't know. I don't really like the Imperium, so I'm just gonna go. Humanity must be freed from ignorance. Yay, Horus. Okay, scans of the battlefield have detected enemy troop movement in an unexpected corridor. How do you respond? Scramble the infantry, call in armored support. This one kind of depends on the enemy you're facing. Are you facing an enemy that is going to have a lot of anti-armor, for instance? If you're facing an enemy that you know is very good at dealing with tanks, but you don't know what exactly is in a quarter, you would probably want to deploy infantry that make it harder for the guns to focus on any one point. And you move them about. Maybe you send a tank to like kind of provide support, but you try to keep it in the back. If you're dealing with something that is very heavy anti-infantry, you'd probably just call in the armored support. I think in the vast majority of circumstances, armored support makes more sense if you don't know what you're dealing with than it does to scramble the infantry. Because infantry can be really good, but it will largely depend on what you're actually facing and things like that. I mean, if I'm facing Necrons, for instance, I'm probably definitely going to want like more firepower. If I'm facing Tyranids, more firepower for a lot of these things. If I'm facing Eldari, it might actually be a better idea to have lighter squads moving around to interact because Eldari are moving around really fast. So it could be much better to, rather than like a Landlater, which is slow but has a lot of firepower, well, the Eldar are just going to run circles around that all day. So having infantry that can more rapidly redeploy and move around would probably be best. So what I would probably do is, in most cases, I think armored with a support squad would probably be best. Like a Land Raider with some dudes in it who will pop out and do some firing. That's probably what I would do in most circumstances. It seems your enemy has left a vital position vulnerable to counterattack. How do you just go about destroying it? Launch covert operations to sever the supply lines and sow discord and confusion. That one's very good, and I like that one. Advanced slow and steady discipline and training will win the day. Literally, let's do Napoleonic's tactics. I'm not really into the whole idea of doing Napoleonic's tactics. Actually, it's better. Actually, it'd be better to scramble rapid response infantry units for a raid. This one and this one are both options. It kind of depends. Like, the thing with the covert operations thing is you kind of need more time to do it. Like, you need to make sure that you have the ability to move stuff behind enemy lines, influence where they're going, poke at them and go, hey, this is what they're doing, blah, blah, blah. And if it's like launch covert operations to sever their supply lines and sow discord, you could probably do that without it like being like a vital thing left open. And you probably should be doing that to begin with. Severing supply lines is probably one of the biggest things, and especially sowing this confusion amongst their operations can immediately make you just way more effective. So I'm going to go with launch covert operations. Your heavy weapons cover you from afar. Which guns do you have trained on the enemy? Heavy bolter, missile launcher. Missile launchers work well. You can use them as anti-infantry or as anti-tank. It will kind of depend. This was once again one of the ones where it will kind of depend what you're actually fighting. Are you fighting, let's say, a couple of rhinos? Or are you fighting like a Land Raider? What are you fighting exactly? Because a heavy bolter, for most things, will do a decent amount of damage and will do a decent amount of cover on most things. If you're not dealing with like out and out tanks. I think that they are more useful in general because they can provide continuous suppressing fire. And for a lot of lighter vehicles and things like that, or if you're dealing with infantry, that is really more key, I think. So I'm going to go with heavy bolters. Your foe is led by a charismatic cult and will fight to the bitter end. How do you depose them? Quietly collect intel without being detected, infiltrate their command structure, and assassinate the leaders. Use esoteric firepower and technical supremacy to exploit their weakness and overwhelm all opposition. All opposition. Okay. The way this question is phrased is a little weird because your foe is led by a charismatic cult and will fight to the bitter end. Does that imply, to me, that implies at least a little bit that just killing their leadership probably won't work exactly? I mean, like, think about the Taliban. The Taliban are structured in such a way where even if you kill all their leaders, they're not going to stop. They're structured to be like have like a sort of decentralized command. However, if it's just the charismatic cult that is leading things forward, then you would probably just go with the execution part, because this just seems like, yeah, Azure would be fine, but at the same time, like, if you're just killing wave after wave of guys, you're kind of wasting your time. Whereas this one is probably the better option. So I'll go with infiltration. Okay. What's the best way to enhance your mobility? Jump pack, prettiest pattern land speeder. Well, jump pack you can give out like a lot, and that can give you an individual squad, which can, since we're kind of going for infiltration options here, I'm gonna guess just based on what I've answered, I'm either gonna get Raven Guard or Alpha Legion. Just a guess. Could be wrong. The land speeder is cool, but I don't know. Once again, it kind of depends on the individual situation. Like jump packs, you can actually do a lot with just with like a basic infantry squad, because then you can have them like clear out a floor, and then rather than going all the way through the fortifications, they can just jump onto the next area and just keep moving up. Or you can have them rapid deploy to one area and then redeploy to another area, stuff like that. So I'm gonna go with jump pack. Okay, would you rather stick to the shadows, waiting for the perfect moment to eliminate the enemy in a single strike? Unpick your enemies from inside out with spy, sabotage, and battlefield deception. Decisive strikes can be very important, but the thing is, in a longer campaign, you're not necessarily just waiting for the perfect moment to strike. You can't just do that forever, because it can also make your campaign take way longer. If you from the very beginning are doing things with spies, sabotage, and battlefield deception, you're gonna make it a lot harder for them to respond. If you make it so that they don't, like, maybe you at first look like you're doing like a big mass assault, but then like just teleport away, like, they're going to start to not really know if they should actually bother redeploying. They're also going to not know what they're doing, what they're striking at. Sabotage also is hugely important in battlefield deception. Overall, I would say for a whole campaign, that is a much more practical solution. Whereas if you start talking about, I would probably do both, actually, because I would do the sabotage and stuff and just keep doing that. But I would also have teams ready if, like, like if we talked about the charismatic cult in the previous one, if someone is there's a leader that we can kill, doing the whole spies and sabotage thing, you might not be able to kill them at all. You might be able to ruin a lot of their power, but you don't know if you're going to kill them. I would probably have a little bit of both going on. But of the two, I think that this one is much more important to the sabotage and spies and all that is much more important to the overall success of your campaign. This feels a little bit too much like basing your abilities on are basing your tactics on like a single perfect strike, which in some sense can work. Like if you are a good league ahead of your enemy in terms of technology or just firepower or whatever, you can do like a single strike. But like during the Great Crusade, you might want to just do one, but like as things go on, you probably want to do another. Another thing that's kind of interesting is if you set up spy networks, if you take over the planet afterwards, you already have spy networks set up. So I'm gonna go with this one. Alpha Legion. The Alpha Legion masters of deception, their tactics, labyrinthine, and their methods inscrutable. Yep, that kind of makes sense. I would say that of the two that I thought, like Alpha Legion makes a lot of sense. Like to me, it kind of boils down to a thing of like when I just think about actual warfare, Alpha Legion seems like it's just the ones that are playing it like it's an actual war. Like sometimes it's fun to just go in and like just slaughter if you're like world eaters or whatever, but it's not super effective a lot of the time. It like especially if you're trying to just end a war. Um, I think that I like Alpha Legion the most in terms of their tactics. And constantly keeping your enemy guessing and making it so that they have a harder time responding to what you're doing can also really enhance your own strengths. And I really like that. Although I would also say that I do also like the Raven Guard's whole stealth until like the opportune moment. Because judging from this quiz, can I go back? I don't think I can go back one here. I just want to see something here. I'm gonna guess that because of my answers, what's probably I'm assuming that here, this is where they're determining if I'm correct. So let's just say if I stick to the shadows, yeah, it's gonna go Raven Guard. So most of those answers, like that's sort of the two where it would kind of depend. Yeah, I kind of figured it would be Raven Guard or Alpha Legion. It's really weird to me because Raven Guard are really neat lore-wise. They do a lot of fun things, but like for miniatures and characters, they're just so boring. I just don't think they have anything that interesting in terms of characters. Like Corvus is cool enough, but like I don't know. It just seems to me like the Alpha Legion is probably the more interesting version of these guys. Um, but yeah, I think overall tactically these two legions at least make some sense. There's a lot of legions where I kind of look at them and go, "What on earth are you even doing?" And basically what it turns into for a lot of the Great Crusade, as far as I can tell, is that they're just fighting enemies that don't have the firepower to deal with them. Where with a lot of them, it kind of seems like if you just had like coordination or firepower, I don't think a lot of these Space Marines would actually be that hard to deal with. It's just that they're just like a sheer brick of destructive power that you have to find ways to deal with. And I think that that's where a lot of enemies of these guys just kind of come up short. Anyway, I think that's kind of interesting, and I think that result is also kind of neat. I like Alpha Legion, but Raven Guard are also cool. Anyway, yeah, I'm glad to do this little quiz. Maybe you guys should take the quiz and see what kind of results you get and talk about them and all that fun stuff. Anyway, I love you, and God loves you, and bye-bye, love you, bye. Have a great day. Yeah.